So, welcome Ninsei. Thank you very much for joining us in the Avondale Pavilion project this month for November. So, let's kind of jump straight into it. So, who are you and where are you from?
I'm Nense Gomez. I am a graffiti writer and I could say a street artist from Chile, South America, Sagittarius.
Whereabouts in Chile are you from?
From the capital, Santiago.
Let's take it right back to the beginning. What got you inspired, or what got you into art or graffiti? What came first?
Oh no, definitely graffiti. Yeah. I remember me being a kid. I'd say 13, 14. I grew up seeing the art scene. The graffiti scene. And I really got tempted about doing something like in the streets. So I remember this is a quite funny story. I remember I was with my brother. He's 2 years younger than me, and I remember telling him, "Brother, do you want to start doing graffiti?" And my younger brother said, "Man, come on, really? Like, yeah, let's kind of like, let's be graffiti writers." And he was like, "Okay, sounds good. So what should we do? No, let's go and get some cans from the shop and let's get somewhere. I know a place." And he was like, "Man, nah, it's not true. Not like," he wasn't believing me, like that I was too confident about starting doing graffiti. We got to the shop. I told him, "Look, I know how would you call like an empty place, like
Empty place.
an empty place." And we stepped in. We did our first throw up. Wasn't that bad, but maybe because we were copying some other artists back in the days.
Yeah.
So the letters weren't that shit. And that's the story mainly.
And
that's
how
it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then kept tagging, kept throwing up stuff, kept being minor criminals for a while.
Yep. When you first started, what did the graffiti look like at that time, like from the other writers?
I think was all together. Was like, I remember seeing like the whole street next to my house all bombed, tags in like 3 floors high.
Oh yeah.
And also they were like abandoned weird places. I don't know what were they, like they were like empty water, kind of waterfronts ish things. And there was street art mostly, not that much like graffiti like. So I'd say I grew up seeing everything. So that's what made me get tempted about doing everything.
Yeah.
Like tagging, bombing, and also doing pieces.
Yep. All the different elements.
Yeah, I'd say all the different elements. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And is there anybody in particular that kind of comes to your mind that you remember seeing? Any particular writer?
Well, there are a few crews.
Yeah.
A few crews.
What's the name of some of the crews?
I'd say, well, one, like the most famous one back in the days was, how would you say that? Like 2012?
2012.
Like as the year, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's the name of their crew.
Yeah, like 2012. 2012K. Yeah, that means 12, like 2012.
2012.
Crew. And they were kind of this punky-ish. How would you say these people that uses abandoned houses? Ocupa?
Okay, yeah.
They have that concept, like ocupar is like to use, and they occupy, kind of.
Okay, yeah.
So we have that concept. So the crew was kind of like that punky, Ocupa stylish. They weren't that much like hip hop based. They were, but they were more punk. And they had everywhere tagged, everywhere, like everywhere. And the way that they introduced their style on this scene that was mostly controlled by hip hop, they started to present like this message about how to get into the graffiti, but saying something else, like more like a direct attack to the system, instead of, I'd say, it's not a bad thing, but instead of just writing your name, because they were bombing this year, because it was meant to be like the apocalypse year back in the days, you know.
Yep.
And they were talking about the end of the world.
You mean like they wrote messages about that type of stuff?
Yeah, all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't just the 2012 thing. It was like attacking the government, attacking.
So, are you trying to say that it was political? Some of the stuff. Very political.
Very
Interesting.
Political.
Yeah,
very political, and kind of like involving hip hop, involving the punk culture.
Yeah.
That is really strong in Chile, actually.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what caught me the most, I'd say, back in the days. And that, like, politically, I'd say, about like the messages and stuff that they were saying. And by the other hand, we have like the more artsy thing.
Yep.
And I'd say I remember seeing back in the days, art-wise. Well, actually, this is a funny story as well, because I grew up seeing this crew that is really hip hop related. They were like the kind of like the motherfuckers painting, you know. They were the shit painting back in the days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called MRK crew. That means mala raza. That could be like the blood, like bad bloodline, something, you know, like it's bad bloodline could be the translation.
Yeah.
And the funny story is that I didn't know them back in the days, but I knew their style, and they were painting really close to my place, so I saw them everywhere. And I remember, well, after a while I knew who they were, just by the names, just by the tags, I mean. And after I don't know how many years, well, when I got to uni to study architecture, one of them was my classmate.
Nice.
And still a friend, Guason, Pablito. Greetings to Pablito. So I remember that was like kind of, even if it was not my main inspiration, I'd say, was the first approach that I got to like more developed art pieces than just like throw-ups and political messages.
It's interesting to hear you talk about writers doing some political messages. What was life like growing up in Santiago? What makes people want to create political messages?
Yeah, I'd say it's tough. Like, it's mainly tough. Like the gap between, I mean, like economically, the gap between like the income of people, let's say from, I don't know how to say this, but like
rich, poor, middle class. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like the gap between those, it's huge.
Yeah.
Awfully huge. Of course, the injustice and the rights are something that we need to fight. I don't know if you know, but like in 2019, in Chile, some riots started. Awful riots, people dying, the police were shooting to the eyes of the people, so a lot of people also lost their vision.
Yeah. A lot of violence.
Yeah. Like, considering that and looking back in the days, the situation wasn't different. The situation is just that now all the thing exploded by the government shit, you know, the actual government doing shit, but the thing like kept going for ages. So I wouldn't say the situation got bad now. The situation has been like that since ages.
It's always been bad, but it just exploded.
Now. Yeah, but situation has been like that all the time. So I'd say, well, of course, hip-hop culture has like a really relevant part of all the graffiti. Of course, as all the graffiti scenes everywhere, well, was created by this hip-hop culture. But I'd say we have also like a really thin line between hip hop and punk. People that were into the hip hop was listening punk as well.
Okay,
And
interesting.
punk people was listening in hip hop as well.
So it's like a bit mixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also like the counterculture. How would you say that? Like an underground anti-system counterculture. So got really close in Chile, and I think that developed the whole scene.
The whole scene.
Yeah, somehow, yeah.
During this time of you starting to paint graffiti and all of these things, did you have like a mentor or someone that you met, or did you link up with your crew and learn to develop your graffiti through that, or what kind of happened there?
No, actually, I'd say I kind of grew up doing graffiti by myself. Of course, I had my brother. We were doing we were part of the same crew. But back in the days, I remember they were the taggers. And I was the guy bombing, kinda. So everyone had a role back in the days. But I remember they stopped for a while, and I kept doing graffiti by myself. And then I'd say I developed my art knowledge, meeting a few friends, but they weren't much into graffiti. They were more in more fine arts, I'd say.
But it's also interesting because you said just before that you also studied architecture.
Yeah, for a year.
For 1 year.
Yeah.
And but then you also said the other day that you studied graphic design.
Yeah, I finished. Yeah.
So what made you decide to study those two things?
Mainly because I grew up saying, well, graffiti kind of, how would you say this? Graffiti took my life and made it have sense. Without graffiti, I don't know what would I been doing. I don't really know. But graffiti started making me feel interested into graphic something. Everything that was graphic, let's say comics, let's say painting, let's say old style of paintings from the Renaissance until nowadays, that is the comic, animation, anime, so graffiti introduced me to start to getting this taste about
other art forms.
And then I couldn't stop. It got too much sense to me that I could say now my life it's the thing. And of course, graffiti started it all. I studied graphic design because I wanted to, let's say, develop my stuff. Yeah, I'd say graffiti, we said this word, molded my life. Yeah.
What are some of the influences or inspirations that you get to develop your work?
What inspires me? Because of course you can get inspiration from different artists, graphically.
The aesthetic, the style, the look.
Yeah, of course, 100%. But the thing that inspires me the most, I remember I had this moment in my life when I said, okay, I want to do this shit. I remember, I don't know who was it. I don't know if this was an interview I don't know if it was about Aris. You know Aris?
Arise?
Arise?
ARYZ?
That one.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if it was an interview of someone talking about him or was someone talking about Pantone.
Oh, yeah. Felipe
Pantone.
Yeah.
Both Spanish, actually.
Yeah.
Crazy. Or if was one of them talking about the other one. I cannot remember really, but I remember hearing one of them saying, look, I think this guy, it's incredible. I don't know how he makes it. He's a fucking beast. And I remember saying back in the days, kind of shit, I kind of want to be considered. But yeah, I said like I want to be like, because I remember like seeing these guys with so much respect, you know, and because they were kind of like creating a path, developing a new style, developing a movement, you know. So I said I want to be part of it, and just like not just a spectator.
Who are some other, maybe like 3 or 5 people that you're inspired by, that you see online?
The first one actually that inspired my graffiti was Aris.
Yep.
Because he was doing this kind of like mixing letters with characters. So I'd say seeing that made me feel like, oh shit, I want to start doing characters,
yep.
you know, or developing my letters in another way. Yeah, so maybe he's like a, not nowadays, but I remember seeing him as the first guy, like kind of, definitely, yeah. So I'd say then some other guys that inspired me a lot. It's the Itam crew.
Oh, Itam, so
from
good.
Poland.
There's 2 of them, right?
2 of them,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Sainer and Best. They like are fucking
So
amazing. Like they are incredible. Yeah, and actually I got the privilege of seeing one of those of the guys' murals in Dunedin.
Oh yeah, because they came here. Yeah.
Man, and first time in my life seeing one of those murals, I was
so good, right?
I spent like hours seeing at the details and everything. Yeah, even if it was all fucked up, faded by the sun, still you could see like the intention, and at least from the brush strokes. Yeah, it was incredible. Really, really inspiring. Who else? People that comes to my mind really quick, I'd say. Yeah, because the list, of course, is huge. But also Soer. It's crazy.
He's really good.
And how I'm impressed of how he started doing this, I don't know how to call it, but really geometrical graffiti first. Like his tag on walls. Really, he got this, I think he was, I wouldn't say he was wild style at the very beginning, but he was kind of like this hip-hop geometrical abstract. Like you could see the influence on his letters by old graffiti, and then he started to develop that style, adding some more geometrical stuff on it,
and it also looks more like a oil painting now. Kind of style.
Nowadays it's impressive how he evolved from that to this new style, and like I remember for me it was incredible to see. Yeah, I remember the first time I said, okay, this guy is the shit.
Yeah.
I said I saw this graffiti, really geometrical, made with one color, like just red or something. And for me, like I think it was the first time me seeing like a monochromatic graffiti from someone, and I said, fuck, like this guy is
super good,
a genius. Just a can, and he made he blowed up my mind.
Also with your work, I guess, I saw on your Instagram that you're also interested in painting things like portraiture and figures as well. Could you tell me what things you generally, what motivates you to paint that type of work?
This is crazy because at the very beginning, as I was talking about this, like the influence of the political messages, I started with letters because I wanted to express something with letters. Then including characters on the thing was kind of, actually was the first characters I started to paint was poisonous animals, because they kill people, and I was really into that kind of message. So somehow I knew that even painting poisonous animals wasn't the message. I probably would say it was the message I wanted to say, but the people was not getting it. So somehow I said, okay, I need to be more direct. So I started to paint portraits. At the very beginning, it started as an exercise of, developing my technique.
Practice and studies and
with oils and stuff. Then I got really interested in developing my own language. So I'd say I still kept practicing with portraits, because it was the first thing that kind of got my interested and allowed me to practice these new things I was learning. And then I would say little by little I've been introducing the message I want to introduce. You know, I don't know if you have seen that I've been into these portraits. I've been kind of developing, mostly all of them have horns, and that's if we go deeper or something like that, I want to express that, like, humanity, it's fucked up. So that made me go from letters trying to express a message, then poisonous animals. Like, it's always about humanity and like a message, not against, but kind of against.
What do you think is wrong with humanity?
We are little devils. We are demons. Like, I'd say shortly, we have this concept of going to heaven or hell. Maybe this is hell already, and we are enjoying it. Fuck yeah. We are enjoying it as most as we can. But yeah, that's it pretty much. Like, we are little demons.
I really like the a lot of the paintings that you've done that I've seen on your Instagram, and it's great to understand a little bit about the ideas or the concept behind those paintings. So what you've done on Instagram is quite different than what you've done for the pavilion.
Yeah, it's way different.
Could you explain to me a little bit about your approach or your idea behind what you've painted for this particular pavilion?
Yeah, it's interesting question. I'd say even if I mostly dedicate myself to paint portraits and stuff, I also have like a hidden artworks, like a hidden series of abstract artworks as well. And if you see on my portraits as well, you can see abstract artwork in the background of the art, of the painting itself. I would say this is way different because it's mostly abstract, and in the portraits, of course the person has the focus on the image, kind of making the abstract art being the background of it.
Yeah, so foreground and background.
Yeah, kind of like the how would you say, the shape, and in this artwork particularly there is just abstract. So the focus it's on the abstract.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's that different, but of course now I've been trying to, as it is a new challenge, painting like a 3D sculpture instead of a 2D
something
one.
flat.
Yeah, made me wanted to experiment with like mostly abstract and with the shapes of the pavilion itself, because it's mostly, I love the shapes of it, like the concept I told you, orthogonal, that keeps the lines like vertical, horizontal lines, like kind of like the square shape.
What I notice is you're responding to the pavilion. So some of the shapes you were saying, if there's something here, you respond to that, create something there.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, as it is a 3D sculpture, of course it's harder to approach to it because you cannot design it from before, because you have to be there, you have to have the whole figure and being able to move it around and see how the colors work with the shades, with the dimensions of it, with the sun rays, So the way of approaching to it was way different, and it's a really fun challenge. And the sun,
very hot day.
Oh hell yeah. yeah, definitely. So I'd say the approach to it for me was way better if I could stand and walk around and see what the composition needs, what the composition is yelling me to do. Like, need some pink here, need some white here, need some typefaces here. After you do the typeface, you fucked up the last color you put on it, so you have to change it after. Yeah, until at that point the artwork says I'm finished.
I guess moving forward as well, because we're getting close to the end of this, is You've obviously come from Chile and you've been in New Zealand, I think you said, for 2 years, is it?
2 years already, yeah.
2 years. So what is the next plan you have? Will you continue to stay in New Zealand, or what's your next moves?
Yeah, well, it's a tricky question. I might have to leave soon.
Yeah.
As you know. But yeah, now the next plan is to go to Australia and try luck there, get involved into the art scene. And yeah, mostly that. Luckily the COVID situation is ending, so apparently galleries are opening again, as I've been seeing. I've been looking on Instagram. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, next plans, painting a building.
Do you think that your motivation for painting, do you enjoy doing things outdoors more, like painting like a big wall mural or something, or do you enjoy doing more things like in the studio, like showing in a gallery or something?
All of them have pros and cons. I mean, the funniest, of course, is to use the spray can. Yeah, and as well, because we were talking about the dance moves you have in the wall.
It's like a performance, yeah.
Definitely, it's a performance. As well, using like big brushes to make good strokes, I love that. Instead of painting, like little oil paintings with little brushes and being really careful about what you do, it's a pain in the ass sometimes. Well, actually every time it's a pain in the ass. But I mean, all of them have pros and cons. I'd say because as well, painting a wall under the sun destroys me. I'm really bad with the sun.
Yeah.
Really bad.
What do you think of the kind of street art and graffiti scene here in Auckland?
I'd say I haven't seen much bombing. Maybe mostly because I lived in near the CBD, and I'm pretty used to all tagged cities from where I come. So the city mainly doesn't have much. You have to go to not to the outskirts, but like out of the
city center.
Center, yeah. So I haven't seen much. The places I've seen covered in walls, I can say like the level here, it's amazing. Like if you mostly see good pieces, and that's incredible. Like the handwriting of the people in the train rails. Train rails, that's how you talk about it?
Yeah, we call it track sides.
The track sides.
Yeah.
The track sides, you can see the hand style of people, the bombing, the pieces, everything. It's really developed. Instead of this is an interesting phenomena happening. I don't know, this might be cutting or something, but this is an interesting phenomena because in Chile you mostly get paint in bags, like low quality shit, really
like spray
low
paint
quality, like latex.
Oh yeah.
Like it costs, like one gallon, it's like 3 point something liters, it's $3.
Wow.
But it's the shittiest paint ever. But the thing is that in Chile everyone uses that because it's cheap, so for bombing is great.
Yep.
So because you can go everywhere, but you can see the difference of using that paint instead of using like cans or better quality paint. So it's great to see, like, even if the walls pop up better, the walls really pop up here. Like it's amazing. Thank you for the invitation. Sorry if I said too much shit. And
thank you very much, Ninsei, for sharing your insights and knowledge with us today. It's really good to get some of your insights around your views on the scene here in New Zealand, or at least Auckland, and also some of your experiences from back home in Chile. So yeah, just want to thank all the listeners or watchers of this video for the Pavilion project. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the next episode. We will have another artist for you, which is Mark from TMD, and we look forward to sharing his pavilion with you. And if you like this content, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks guys, peace.